Hey everybody, this is Javier. I got Greg Anthony, better known as the Golden Boy Greg Anthony. He is a pro wrestler. He's been wrestling for about 24 years. How are you doing today, Mr. Greg Anthony?
I am rocking and rolling. Good morning to everybody.
It's good to have you. Good to have you on the show. So we're going to talk about a couple of things today. We're going to have a discussion about your history, how everything's going, and what your future is with pro wrestling.
Sure.
So kind of where'd you get started from, if you don't mind me asking?
So, back when I was getting started, it wasn't anything like it is now. There wasn't a wrestling school on every corner. It was almost still at that point in professional wrestling where you had to know someone that knew someone that knew someone that knew the secret handshake to get you into wrestling. So we were doing backyard wrestling, much like the Hardy Boys and a lot of other people back then. And at the time, Memphis Championship Wrestling, which was the developmental territory for the WWE, they were coming to our hometown once a month. And this is when they had Daniel Bryan was still the American Dragon under a mask. They had William Regal. They had R-Truth when he was still, first getting started. They had, just if I went through the entire roster of these guys, you would be amazed that they were in New Bern, Tennessee, of all places. But they were coming to New Bern, Tennessee, and they weren't doing very well. They were only drawing about 30 or 40 people for these events, and it was insane. So my one of the guys, one of my best friends who did the backyard stuff with us, his dad was a police officer. So his dad went up to the promoter, Terry Golden, and was like, "Hey, listen, my son and his friends are trying to break into business. Can you help them?" And Terry, being the smart guy that he is, he brought us in for a tryout kind of thing, and he picked a couple of us, and he said, "Okay, next month when we come back, you're going to have an intermission match, right?" So me and my buddy, we went around for the entire month, telling everybody, "Hey, we're wrestlers. We're going to be debuting for Memphis Championship Wrestling, next month. You got to come see us." So we get to the event, and intermission match ends up being semi-main event, and there's over 200 people in the building, right? And it would just kind of continue from there. Like, he was smart enough to realize if these hometown kids go around and start, telling everybody they're going to be wrestling on this card, sure enough, it worked, and there was 200 people in the building. And from there, we did that for a couple months for Terry, and then he ended up losing the developmental deal. And then we caught on with a local promotion. That's really when we started training and getting all of our stuff in.
Well, you're talking about Terry Pritchard, correct?
Terry Golden.
Terry Goldman. Oh, okay.
Yeah. He was Terry Golden. He was there was a bunch of Memphis stuff going on then, but he had the connection to where he had Memphis Championship Wrestling, and like I said, it was a ridiculous roster. Reckless Youth was there, which was one of my favorite guys, the first King of the Indies, pretty much. And then there was just Headbangers were there at one point. A lot of Lance Cade. There's a lot of Shawn Michaels students. Brian Kendrick. I mean, it was just endless. The whole roster. The whole roster was somebody.
Because I remember the San Antonio when Shawn Michaels actually owned the Texas Texas Federation here.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys, they came directly from that. They wrestled for Shawn in the TWA, and they came directly to Memphis. And then it was that whole group of guys. Shooter Schultz was another guy who could have had a big upside. Charlie Haas. Well, I didn't get to meet Russ, but obviously Russ and Charlie Haas were part of that too. But Russ passed away. But yeah, there was just a ton of talent from top to bottom.
So who are some of the people that trained you in order for you to be the pro wrestler you are?
So a lot of hands-on kind of stuff. So originally it was a guy named Rude from a tag team called Naughty by Nature. They were regional NWA tag team champions in several different territories. A guy named Motley Cruz, who's another local guy that, he was trained by Dick Steinborn and that generation of wrestlers, like from the 50s and 60s. Later on, it was a guy, Sir Mo from Men on a Mission.
I remember him.
yeah, Bill Dundee. Apparently, Bill Dundee is, says he trained me, so we're gonna go with that too. I was wrestling for Tommy Dreamer for House of Hardcore in Nashville, and I was in a 6-man tag it was me and a couple other guys versus Bill Dundee, Jack Stane, and Crimson. And Bill goes, "Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry." Dreamer goes, "Yeah, I put you in that since Dundee trained you. I figured it'd be all right." I go, "Dundee didn't train me." He goes, "Dundee didn't train you?" I was like, "No." He said, "Well, he said he did." I said, "Well, okay, it's history now. I guess he did."
I'm just gonna run with it.
I'm gonna run with it. I've known Dundee since I started, so I mean, he has been a mentor to me as far as like booking goes and things of that nature. So yeah, I definitely put him on the list. Bobby Eaton too. I mean, there's just a lot of guys. Dr. Tom Pritchard. We did a camp with him when I was very young, a whole weekend with him, and that really kind of honed in my mindset on certain things. So I credit him too. So,
well, I mean, you also had the privilege of wrestling with one of your trainers, Bobby Eaton, beautiful Bobby Eaton. You got to be tag team partner with him.
Yeah, I mean that was almost surreal. Like the thing was, Bobby Eaton was moving to Arkansas, and he was going to be living in Arkansas, and he wanted an Arkansas kid to train with on bookings there, and then he wanted a Tennessee kid to tag with to do bookings over here. And somewhere in the midst of all that, the Arkansas kid, like somehow somebody convinced him it wasn't a good idea to tag with beautiful Bobby Eaton. So he backed off doing his part, and I just kind of raised my hand. I was like, well, I'll do both. I can do Arkansas bookings and Tennessee bookings. So then it was just us. It was me and Bobby, and our manager, Brian Thompson, who was basically our cornet. We were Midnight Gold, and we ran for 2 years, and it was one of the best times in my wrestling career.
It's pretty good. And then you went ahead and moved on. I see you moved on to the NWA and the TCW.
Yeah, NWA I kind of worked with off and on my whole career at some point. But the TCW, I think the area you're talking about, we did TCW first, traditional championship wrestling, and that was, that was a nationally syndicated product. I mean, we were in 50 million homes for sure, and internationally as well, and we're still on. The TCW programming still runs in Arkansas. So, I've definitely got the mileage out of that. But TCW was it was perfect. It was basically it was a Southern wrestling product, and I'm a big fan of Southern professional wrestling, and I think what we provided was like an early '90s WCW kind of feel to everything, with young, hungry talent. The roster of guys that we had there was unreal too. You had myself, and you had Sigmund from the Heat Seekers, which ended up being tag team champions, and then we had Killer Nichols, who ended up going to WWE developmental for a while, and we had just a host of guys. Then we had veterans like Doink the Clown, which was Matt Bourne, and we had who was the other guy? We had Wolfie D from PG-13. He was pretty much the lead in the tag team division. I mean, it was a healthy mix of young and old talent that really was trying to make a name for himself. And Tim Storm came from TCW, and he ended up being a multi-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion. It's just, and it's like I said, it's still on. It's still provided. People still ask me about it all the time. And at one point, I was the most televised guy on that show because Matt Riviera, who was the owner, he wrestled too, but he got so burnt out that he wasn't even wrestling on his own show. And me and him were in a group together called the Empire, and the Empire was the number one heels in the company, but I was pretty much the only one that was wrestling on television. So I mean, it was an interesting time. I learned a lot about who I was and who I needed to be, and I had to take it up a notch. And it was a very it was a pleasure to be on there, and also it led to so many other things.
Well, you have a lot of acolytes. You have a lot of titles. I see.
Yeah, I mean, the Golden Boy.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, that's.
Like
I mean, the
we
Golden.
can go over a couple if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I see you were the tag team champions at the NWA ECW. Was this before the ECW or during ECW?
That's not ECW. That's Elite Championship Wrestling in Louisiana. So
yeah, it's not extreme.
no, it's not extreme.
Yeah.
It is extreme down in Louisiana. If you ever wrestled down there, it can get nuts pretty quick. But no, that was for Elite Championship Wrestling down there, and I think Homa, which is 100% Cajun country down there.
And then also you were a 2-time champion at Lone Star NWA.
Yeah, Lone Star was one of those things. Me and Riviera came into them, and they were a lot of those guys were trying to get signed and trying to get someplace else, and they were very Ring of Honor, centered. They were doing a lot of Ring of Honor style matches, and me and Riviera came in there like it was 1985, and we're doing old school tag matches, and all of a sudden we're getting the biggest reactions of the night. So it really turned a lot of heads and made people go, these guys may got something.
And then also have you as the Mid-South Heavyweight Champion 7 times. Is that
It's actually 9 now.
It's actually 9 now?
Yeah, it's 9 now. Mid-South is one of those. That's kind of, I'm in West Tennessee, and that's kind of the premier championship here in West Tennessee. It's been unified with several other of the smaller companies over the years. And, the Pro Wrestling Mid-South Unified Heavyweight title is the Mid-South Heavyweight title. And it's 9 times. It's just one of those things. It's kind of always found its way back to me,
That's good. That's good. You've always been so you would be the face of the company.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also have you as the national heavyweight champion for the NWA 3 times.
Yeah, I mean that was a huge deal. You look at that title's history and you see Dusty Rhodes and Tully Blanchard and Tommy Rich and Paul Orndorff and the Masked Superstar, and you see all these names and these legends that you grew up idolizing, and then your name's etched right there, and not just etched there; it's etched there 3 times. I was very close to the record is 4 times. I was very close to becoming a 4-time champion, 4 or 5 times at least, and breaking the record. But I was very grateful for my time as the NWA National Heavyweight Champion. I felt like I broke the curse when I won the title. The title had been cursed for a couple of years. Everyone that won the title ended up injured, and the title couldn't move to the next guy. It always had to be relinquished, and then there had to be a tournament or a battle royal or something like that. And then eventually when I won it, there was no injury.
And then right now I have you as the Ally Independent Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Champion.
Yep. Yeah, the world. There's 150 promotions across like 47 countries right now. It's always fluctuating, but there's 150 promotions in 47 countries that recognize AIWF, Allied Independent Wrestling Federation. That's the governing body for them. And of those 150 promotions in those 47 countries, I'm the world heavyweight champion. And that's something that I don't take that lightly. Like, I want to be a world champion like I grew up watching, like the Ric Flairs and the Jack Briscoes and things of that nature. So it's an honor for me to be the AIWF World Heavyweight Champion and get to go across the country. I've been to North Carolina, I've been to Chicago, we got Louisiana coming up next month. I'm all over the place. So
where have you gone? Where has this championship gone since you've become champion?
Like I said, I went all the way to North Carolina, which is all the way to the East Coast, and I went all the way north to Chicago, and I'm fixing to go all the way south to Morgan City, Louisiana. And then, of course, we do a lot of stuff within Tennessee, and then I've done some Arkansas stuff and St. Louis, Missouri, and things of that nature. So I mean, we're all over the place. I can only be in so many places at once, but it's obviously we're making it happen. A lot of people want to challenge for the title, and if they've got the money, I got the time.
Like, are you like showing up to work and you're like, who am I wrestling today? And you
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes like who we got today?
yeah.
We're gonna make it happen. So, but
Are there res-
I
Go
wouldn't
ahead.
have it any other way because, uh, you know, I don't want to ever have a 9 to 5 job. You know, what I mean, I wrestle for a living. I don't stack boxes during the week and then go wrestle on the weekends. I'm a professional wrestler. I think about professional wrestling and make a living at it 7 days a week. So,
Have you ever wrestled somebody where you're just like, wow, I can't believe I'm in the same ring as this person?
yeah, I mean, it happened. It's happened a lot. Like the first name that I ever wrestled was Buff Bagwell, and it's just at the time. This is 2001, I think, and he just it was just an awe of being. This is a guy that was in the NWO. This guy that did this, did that. So that was a big moment. But really, the big moment for me was beautiful Bobby Eaton. We wrestled each other before we ever became a tag. A couple years before we came tag team, we had actually wrestled each other. And just me being in the ring with honestly one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, that was a huge deal for me. And the thing about Bobby Eaton is one of the greatest in-ring competitors of all time, but he's a nicer person. And I truly mean that. Like he was generally the nicest guy in professional wrestling. And I dare say anyone would try to debunk that. I mean, he was notorious for being the nicest guy.
And then also have you as you appeared on Young Rock. Is that true?
I did. I got to be
You
like
got
an
to be the
actual
movie
star.
star?
Yeah, I got to be a star. I had my own trailer and people were ushering me places and like, okay, are you ready? Do you need your robe? And all that kind of stuff. It was an interesting experience. I played Dick Murdoch, which Dick Murdoch was another, great old school professional wrestler, and I got to play Dick Murdoch, even though Dick Murdoch's like 6 inches taller than I am, at least. But because of the camera angles, I was able to be Dick Murdoch, and that was a huge deal. And of course, that became because I'm really good friends with Downtown Bruno, who Memphis wrestling legend, but also he was Harvey Whippleman in WWF, and has been under contract with WWF for 30 plus years as of now, and he's of course really good friends with The Rock, and The Rock was looking for people in the Memphis area to be a part of this thing, and I got to be Dick Murdoch, so it was a huge deal. I'm still getting paid from Young Rock, which is nice to walk out and get a check randomly every once in a while. So,
That's a good
um,
deal.
yeah, no, I'd like to do more things. If there's anyone else out there that needs me to be, have a speaking role of any kind on your show, then I'll do that so I can, keep getting paid residually.
By all means, call me.
Yeah.
And then also, I have you as a devoted Christian with your own ministry. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I for many years, like I didn't know what I believed. Like I thought I was too smart to believe in God, pretty much. And how wrong I was. But like in 2017, I started having chest pains when I was wrestling, and they were pretty severe. But of course, you go get checked out. I'm only 35 years old at the time. No one thinks it has anything to do with my heart, you know. But I'm having these really bad chest pains to the point to where I'm wrestling, and I get bad chest pains, and then I kind of slow up, put someone on a hold, kind of let them subside, and then I continue wrestling again, And after getting checked out, I'm scheduled to wrestle Tim Storm actually for the NWA's World Heavyweight Championship, and I find out that week that I have no right arteries. I just have left arteries, and that I have two 70% blockages in my heart, and then I also have a 90% blockage in my widowmaker. And I had to cancel the championship match with Tim Storm, and I had to have major heart surgery. And I just during that time, like everyone says, there's no atheists in foxholes or deathbeds. You know what I mean? And like I just, at the bottom of the barrel, just, hey, God help me, you know. And so many people came and were like, we're praying for you and we're doing this, and it's just social media exploded. Everyone changed their profile picture to this little golden heart that we did,
Mm-hmm.
in support of me and stuff like that. And it was during that time after that surgery, they were able to go in without cracking me open. They were able to go in and fix everything and stent me and do everything that was needed to be done. Basically, with the way they explained it to me was they gave me open heart surgery without opening me up. That's how serious it was, because they knew that professional wrestling was such a big part of my life that if I had to have open heart surgery and not wrestle for a year, then the stress of not wrestling and the depression of not wrestling and things like that probably may have caused me even more damage. So they went in, they did everything they needed to do without cracking me open. And I felt the power of prayer kind of wash over me. You know what I mean? I felt the presence of God kind of thing. And like, I just knew from that time. And it's like I tell everybody, it's a gradual thing. Like if I would, everything that I'm doing right here today as a Christian, if I would try to do that, 2 days after that surgery, I might have failed. But little by little, I want to be better, and I want to be more like Christ, and I want to help people, and that's where the ministry came from. With my wrestling company, in the beginning when all this happened, I was a Christian and I was running a wrestling company, you know, and we were making decisions. I was making decisions from a Christian standpoint, obviously, but we weren't a Christian company, in my opinion. But I had another situation to where a couple years ago they went in, they scanned me, and they saw another blockage, and they were basically like, "Listen, if we find another blockage this time, there's no way around it. We're gonna have to crack you open. We're gonna have to have open heart surgery. You're gonna be out of action for a year at least if you ever get to wrestle again. That kind of thing." And I prayed just about as hard as anyone can pray that that I would be okay. So we went in for this. We went in for the heart cath, and I'm on the table. And of course, when you do something like that, you're in a thing called twilight, which is where you're not really knocked out and you're not really awake either. You're just kind of aware of
Yeah,
what's
it's
going
kind of
on.
like both. You're just kind
Yeah.
of
So they can,
you're aware, but you at the same time.
yeah, so they can communicate with you in case anything's wrong or something like that. So I'm in this twilight situation, and like all of a sudden the doctor just kind of like turns off his machines and starts pulling things away from me and stuff like that. And he looks at me and he goes, we didn't find anything. He said, not only is the blockage not there that's supposed to be there, but the stenosis in your veins from your other stents is not there. Like we don't know how to explain it. It's like you were healed. And I immediately was like, do you believe in God? You know what I mean? Because this is a miracle. Because after this, I went back to the wrestling company and I was basically like, hey, listen, guys, I've been a Christian. I've been running this company, but now it's time for us to be a Christian company. We're going to pray before our matches. If you don't want to be involved, that's okay. But we are going to sit here and we're going to pray about this stuff. And since we started praying before our events, and since we started the ministry, we started holding services in my wrestling building on Sundays. It was since we started doing all that kind of stuff, the wrestling company has flourished. The guys have flourished. I've had a lot of the guys come up to me and be like, hey, listen, I started my family back in church because we were doing this. You know what I mean? Like, we've had people saved, we've had people baptized. That's been the most rewarding part of it. None of this stuff in life matters. You know what I mean? Wrestling doesn't matter. Whatever jobs other people have, they don't matter unless you're using whatever your passion is and whatever your calling is for Christ, for your relationship with Jesus Christ. And I feel that's what we're doing now. And it's just been an eye-opening experience for all of us.
Well, I mean, your family has to be like incredibly supportive for you to continue wrestling for 24 years.
Yeah, I mean the hard stuff was 7 years ago, you know, and just wrestling's one of those. I tell people all the time, like there are people that don't know me very well, or people that just are just talking to me randomly. They can't believe I'm a heart patient and I wrestle. I mean, they can't believe I'm 43 years old and wrestle. You know what I mean? And it's like, you guys don't understand. This is as much a part of me as anything else in my life. You know what I mean? Like, even if there comes a time when I can't step in the ring and wrestle, I'm still going to be involved in this some way, shape, or form for the rest of my days. You know what I mean? So, and sometimes it's hard to explain that to people. They kind of have, and I'm not, it's all up to them. It's their life. I just want to, have a decent job and work 40, 50 hours a week and go home on the weekends and start over and, that's not me. You know what I mean? Like me, I don't want to punch someone else's clock. You know what I mean? I don't want to, waste my life doing things that I don't like doing. You know what I mean? I want to do stuff in professional wrestling, and I want to help people, Christianity wise, maybe find their place. But other than that, no, I don't want to. I don't want to go stand in one spot for 10 hours.
Yeah, no, I get you. I somewhat go through the same thing with my career. So if you want, you can send me links and everything, and we will have all the descriptions and everything. That way they can get to your ministry if you would like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Of course. Yeah, because I'm not a born again Christian. I won't say that, but I have found Jesus Christ again from my stint at working at maximum security prisons. I have 20 years of law enforcement.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see the worst of people and maybe by seeing the worst, you can see the best.
Yes. So I know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to finding Jesus Christ, and
what does
the future have for you, Mr. Anthony?
Well, the future for me is just like the immediate future is I want to wrestle until I'm at least 50. That's the first one. Honestly, I want to wrestle like Luthez did and have my last match when I'm 74. You know what I mean? But I want to wrestle physically as long as I can. You know what I mean? As long as it makes sense, I want to do that because I love it so much. Other than that, I want to grow the ministry. Obviously, I want to lead as many people to Christ as I can. I want to watch my kids grow up. I want to, have grandkids and that whole nine stuff. Right now, everything's going really well and moving in that direction. We want to grow Pro Wrestling Mid-South. We want to grow AIWF. We want to make sure that all these companies and all this stuff that we're promoting, good old-fashioned professional wrestling. I meet a lot of people nowadays. I meet more people that say I used to be a wrestling fan than people that are actually still wrestling fans. And I want to change that. I want that to flip. I want people to say, I want kids, to become wrestling fans the way we became fans when we were kids. And so that's why we're very, my shows are family friendly, Christian based professional wrestling, because you can bring your 7-year-old daughter or you can bring your 7-year-old grandmother and you're not going to hear anything out of the way at our shows. So, really it's about growing professional wrestling.
And so how do you get ready for a match, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what is the preparation that you have?
So when I was younger, much younger, I would just sit in the back and I would eat pizza or I would be eating whatever, and I would just sit back there and someone would go, "Hey, time for your match," and I would stand up and I would go out there and I would wrestle for 30 minutes. That's not the way it happens now. So, I don't eat anything heavy, leading up to a match. I may have like a Rice Krispie treat or something like that for the sugar and the carbs, quick, that kind of thing. But then I'm a big proponent of DDP yoga because I had some injuries when I was like 30. I was having numbness in my legs and having a lot of sciatica issues. And once I started doing the DDP yoga, it really loosened everything up and got everything back on track. So now before I wrestle, I kind of do some DDP yoga stuff to get me loosened up and ready, and make sure that I'm as close to injury free as I can. 43 years old, wrestling 24 years. I'm banged up. I'm binged up. There's a lot of things that are kind of wrong, but I can work through it. But like I said, a bad day in a wrestling ring is better than any other day anywhere else to me. So.
So what are some of the memorable stories? Can you share like one or two stories that you have about the road?
About the road? Sure.
Something outside of the ring, that's interacts.
Yeah. So we were traveling to TCW. It was me, it was Bobby Eaton, it was Brian Thompson, it was Sigmund from the Heat Seekers, and it was my friend John Michael that I told you with. We started together. And John Michael does a really good Howard Finkel impression. Like a ladies and gentlemen, welcome. He's very, very vocal and has a really good. So for some reason, he got on this Howard Finkel kick that day where he was talking almost exclusively as Howard Finkel. Well, then we all kind of got in it. We all started doing our own Finkel impressions. We were going to McDonald's and we were ordering like we were Howard Finkel, like, I'll take the number one, stuff like that. Right. And we did it like all day long. And then, on TCW days, we traveled early for television and we had travel. So this is like a 16-hour day we're talking about. So by the time we're traveling back, John Michael's still doing this, and we're all done with it. We're all sick of it. You know what I mean? We're all like, just forget this, and he's still going, and we're just like rolling our eyes at this point, like, please stop. You know what I mean? This is too much. Is too much of Howard Finkel. Please stop. So we all get done with the trip. We all get home. Well, that Sunday is a pay-per-view for WWE, so we're all at our respective homes watching the pay-per-view. Well, CM Punk is wrestling Alberto Del Rio. Well, Alberto Del Rio brings out his personal ring announcer, to do his thing. Well, then CM Punk comes out and says, well, you know what? I have my own personal announcer for the night. And who does he bring out? Howard Finkel. So Howard Finkel comes out and announces CM Punk. So we immediately start all texting each other like I thought we got away from this. The one weekend, that John Michael's doing nothing but Howard Finkel. And that seems to be the exact same weekend that Howard Finkel comes back to the WWE and does the announcers for CM Punk. So we all find that kind of odd and funny.
That is pretty funny, actually. So what advice do you want to give some of these future wrestlers, if you can give them any kind of advice?
Well, number one is I want you to find a reputable trainer. Don't find somebody that's going to, train you for 3 or 4 weeks and then all of a sudden you're having matches. It's just not the way it works. It's impossible to do that. If you're gonna go somewhere, excuse me.
It's all right.
If you're gonna go somewhere that's gonna take the time and effort. It takes me 6 months to a year to get someone ring ready. So find somebody that's going to put that time and effort into you to make you a professional wrestler. Another thing is the bump card that people talk about is a real thing. People talk about, well, your bump cards, one day your bump card's going to be full and you're not going to be able to do it anymore. That's 100% true. So take care of your body, take care of yourself. You know what I mean? Don't do a bunch of crazy nonsense just to do a bunch of crazy nonsense. I don't take brain busters. I don't take anything where I don't land flat. You know what I mean? And I've been wrestling 24 years. A lot of guys don't make it to my point because they're getting dropped on their head. They're landing on their hips and their butts awkwardly. So just take care of your body and be safe about everything you do, because one day you're not going to be able to do this at all. And then last thing I can say is, just perfect your craft. This is an art form. As much as people in professional wrestling nowadays, they want to make us like we're a comic book. They want to make us like we're a movie. They want to make us like we're, this sport or that sport. The fact of the matter is, professional wrestling is its own unique form, its own unique art form. You know what I mean? And there's a certain way we do things and a reason why we do things the way we have for 100 years. And you need to learn those ways because there's legitimate reasons behind them. So I don't like, like the Joey Ryans and the people that are doing the obviously phony things, just so they can get YouTube views. When all it does is hurt professional wrestling. I'm trying to sell good old school professional wrestling. I'm trying to be able to wrestle and, go to a school and do a fundraiser and help this organization and that organization. And, if they see a Joey Ryan or if they see some of the other just vulgar things that happen sometimes on independent professional wrestling, and they think that's what we are, we all get painted with the same brush. So find, like I said, study your history, study the old school guys, and try to make your way through it the best you can.
And where can they find the AIWF, and where can they find you?
So obviously on Facebook, you can just search AIWF Wrestling. You can also search Pro Wrestling Mid-South, which is my home base company. I'm the Golden Boy Greg Anthony. I'm on TikTok and Facebook, and I have a like page and a personal page. So YouTube, obviously, there's plenty of footage and stuff like that on YouTube if you want to see us in action. But I mean, we're there. We're all around, and we're always looking for new fans.
And did you have anything you want to add before we finish this up?
Man, I just appreciate you reaching out to me and wanting me to come on the show, and so I could spread the word of professional wrestling and talk about my Christianity and things of that nature. I'm just I'm always up to talk about wrestling. You know what I mean? So I mean, anytime you need somebody, just let me know, and maybe I can come back on here and we can talk about some more things.
Yeah, like it's very rare to find somebody that's willing to even acknowledge Christianity on top of what it is they do.
Yeah,
and yeah, I'm very grateful because it's somewhat hard now these days to find that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I found too. When that's what I think that's what the devil wants. They want people, they want Christianity hidden in the corner and stuff like that. But there's a lot of us out here that are speaking the truth, and speaking the word of God and things like that. And you just got to look for them a little bit. Like for me, like I said before, I used to believe I was too smart to believe in God. You know what I mean? And no one could have told me different. But until I was ready, till my mind was ready, you know what I mean? Till my heart was ready. You know what I mean? You can bring a horse of water, but you can't make him drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't try to press my views on anyone, but I just want them to know that if they have questions, if they want answers and stuff like that, then I'm always available to talk. You know what I mean? I'm always available to help you in maybe your path to Christ.
And everything you send me, we'll have the links and descriptions and all that, so they can very easily get in contact you if you will.
Yeah, and the ministry is Genesis 3224 Ministries. So, and that's on Facebook if you want to go give that a like. Genesis 3224 is the story of Jacob wrestling God on the mountain. So,